Are you suffering from anxiety, the constant emails, threatening social media posts? Is a certain toy company breathing down your neck? You may be dealing with neck-harassment-itis. I'm Timmy Mint, a 20-year toy advocate attorney for the law offices of Mint and Mint. And I fight for toy collectors' rights. And I won't stop until you're satisfied. And my word comes graded. The law offices of Mint and Mint.
And Timmy Mint got me 2.5 million flag points.
Ho, ho, ho. What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
That was a very creepy Santa Claus.
Well, do you know what it's from,
No.
Mr. Storm?
Nope. Don't know, man.
You guys ever see Christmas Story?
Yeah, I've seen it once, yeah.
Remember? He's in the mall. Ho,
Oh,
ho,
yeah.
ho. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on Ho Ho Day. As you might know, we're live, just not when you're watching this, because we wanted to record it because shit happens. And we're excited to talk about all of the toys that we remember and some of the ones that we got, some of the ones we didn't get. But more importantly, as always, I am your lovely, gorgeous, sexy, amazing host of this fine America's only toy podcast that exists and that matters, by the way. That is the important piece there. Is it's the only one that matters. But I'm excited because not only am I accompanied by the other gorgeous, sexy host, Mr. Storm, we brought in another gorgeous, sexy co-host, Mr. Richard from KS Collectibles. Fellas, I hope you're doing well. And yeah, what's going on? Are you guys excited to talk about some toy problems?
Absolutely, man. There's always a problem with toys.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, I'm always stoked to talk about toys. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's good. It's good times. Hey, well, we want to get into it, but it is Christmas when you're watching this. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that other shenanigans stuff. I'm Chet Maddox. This is Toy Box Chronicles, America's Toy Podcast, and we'll be right back. Oh, we're back. Well, we're going to kick this off, and normally I get volunteered to go first. I'm not going first today, boys. We're gonna have Mr. Richard. Mr. Richard is going to be going first because I've seen his list and I'm impressed, sir. And there's a lot on your list that I was like, you know what? Yeah, I needed that too. So, without further ado, I hand it over to you, sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up, I was really into Star Wars and stuff, and like the first thing that I have on my list, that one of my favorite, and maybe when I got it per se, I wasn't super stoked simply because I wanted Star Wars toys, and Star Wars was very hard to like. You're talking. This is the second year that it was out. Over the first year we got the old. You got your old cutout and stuff like that. But when the toys were actually being released and we started to get the vehicles and we're getting our X-wing, so I got an X-wing and I wanted a TIE fighter. That was one thing that I really wanted. Apparently, my parents weren't able to find TIE fighters, and as a parent, when you're older, you don't really know exactly what your kids are into. You just hear, I want a TIE fighter, this spaceship, and we're not, as children, we're not the best at describing it. So instead of getting a TIE fighter to battle my X-Wing, I ended up getting a Buck Rogers and the Buck Rogers Starship, which as I learned and started to play with it, it became one of my favorite toys of all times. This actually got me into Buck Rogers a lot more than I originally was as a kid. And it's just like the I believe they're Amigo, and they were some of the coolest toys that were put out, as especially late 70s, early 80s. Mego put out some they were the first O-ring characters. G.I. Joe were hobbled, based off of the old Mego action figures, and the vehicles were so awesome, and they just. The thing about the toys of those days is everything it went together. Your Star Wars played with your Buck Rogers, which your what's called it, Battlestar Galactica toys would play with them too. Everything was seamless and it would all go together. Yeah, it was all playable, and very, very quickly, just because it's just such a cool Starfighter. It became one of my favorite toys. Probably one of the ones that lasted the longest. I actually used to take pretty great care of my toys when I was a kid. It got well worn. Let me tell you, there was no stickers on it. It was yellowed from being out in the sun, but man, that thing was loved a lot. I absolutely ended up loving that Buck Rogers Starship, and it was something that the reason it's on my list is it's something that was a surprise, because like I said, it wasn't something that I asked for, and initially I wasn't the happiest about it, but as kids, you're taught not to say anything. You're grateful for getting anything, and I was grateful because it was still cool. And once I started playing with it, it was awesome. So yeah, that's why it holds a special place in my heart, because it wasn't something I initially wanted.
Well, I a lot of people, I would take it from, there's a certain age bracket that you grew up in, and I remember these toys. I don't remember the play set. So as we were doing the assets and everything else, looking at the play set, I was like, wow, and actually they went into a deep dive for a show that only really did 2 seasons. Well, it was
2 seasons, yeah.
Theatrical movie that was released, and then it had 2 seasons on I believe NBC. But again, every time it pops on or something, I'll always watch and everything. Gil Gerard, he was just, he's one of those dudes and everything. And of course, Mel Blanch's voice as Twiggy the robot, so but
was this
going back and looking at this, what was that, man?
Was this 3 3/4?
Yes.
Yeah, it was 3 3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just looking at all the other vehicles, and this is from because he did make a wave, I guess wave 2, because I remember Hawk had his ship.
Okay. Yep. Hawk.
And I think
and the actor who recently died this year, actually.
Oh, wow.
The crazy thing is, the other thing that made me really love the Buck Rogers at the same time, because I was, like I said, I was into Star Wars, is because these Migos, they're 3 3/4, but they're O-ring figures.
Yeah.
So they were articulated way better than the Star Wars figures.
Yes. Yeah, they had that down. I don't think the Buck Rogers Starfighter was as good as the X-Wing. I think the X-Wing was produced a little bit better.
Right.
But, I've seen all over from the internet, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's on certain other YouTube channels. There's a company that's actually 3D printing the actual Buck Rogers Starfighter, and that just peaked back up into it. But looking at the playset, though, I'm like, wow, that was actually a pretty cool playset, man.
That's a line I would really love to see get a re-release. It was an awesome show. It was just, that was pure late 70s, early 80s, pure 80s fun. Just,
yeah.
I believe I own these on DVD, so every now and then I'll go back and watch the Buck Rogers.
Yeah, well, you can catch that on Peacock. They've actually got Buck Rogers all the time there and everything else like that. 25th century and everything. So, all right, well, let's get into your other one right here, which we all knew that it had to be a Joe on the list, brother.
Oh, absolutely. The Killer Whale is my favorite GI Joe vehicle of all time. This I still remember getting this as a kid. We had when I first saw it released, I was sold by because they knew their marketing. They were showing it, that you playing it, the kids were playing with it in a pool. So that got me. This thing floated, cool, because we played with everything back in the day in the bathtub. And we had, as a kid, we had an old above ground pool, and that thing saw my pool like crazy. I still have the original. It's been rebuilt. I've had to, because of parts were broken through the years, but I still do have the original. My original Killer Whale. I absolutely love it. It's, like I said, it's one of my favorite toys of not just that I got as a Christmas present, but one of my favorite toys I've ever owned.
Yeah, I
To
remember
the point where I own 10 of them now, by the way.
I remember this vehicle only because it was like, I think it's such a novice because the Killer Whale did something. And I remember, if you grew up in the early 80s, there's certain pieces of technology that started to floating over from like science fiction into reality. And it just then, you saw on like maybe whatever news program or something like a hovercraft.
Yeah.
And then for GI Joe to actually have that, and you're like, wait a minute, this thing can actually glide over the land and then go into the sea. And it was like, they were always one step up. That's what made GI Joe such a great brand, because they did, like, they've got Tomcats, they've got Warthogs, they've got all real military vehicles that they kind of brought into that, so you could see that through the walks of life. And I thought that this one was just a great looking vehicle. I love Cutter. Larry Hama did a fantastic job of just naming a lot of these characters, man, and all the mystique to them. Here's a guy that just has a life vest and he's riding around, but he's like a pretty cool dude, bro.
Yeah.
Then
the artwork on the GI Joe,
Yeah.
on all the GI Joe toys is amazing. It still holds up to this day. It's amazing.
No, I look, they've done a great job. They were always very simple. It's the red, white, and blue, Joe Simple, the explosion kind of thing in the background, and yet also just great artwork. And I think that's one of the things that is missing from today's toys is that, look, we fail to remember how the industry has changed. But not only were there sculptors, but so many artists benefited from actually doing box cover work or doing movie posters or whatever. And now they're just something that's kind of like thrown to the wayside. So when you see that this is something where you could frame it, put it up, and it still just holds it. And it's kind of like we were talking about the other day, Andy Warhol. This is like when it comes to like toys, this is like the Andy Warhol effect of like having box covers that work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, from the Killer Whale to what else you got here, brother? Uh-oh.
That's the man. So, as kids, the first wrestling figures we got were I believe they were the Remcos, which were very He-Man style.
Yeah.
But then the first WWF or figures we got were the big rubber men. And I was introduced to pro wrestling by my grandmother. And my grandmother was a big fan of the Guerreros back in the day. So we used to go to the old Olympic in LA, late 70s. And they were feuding with Roddy Piper at the time. And my grandmother hated Piper. I absolutely loved Piper. He was hilarious to me. I just found him Roddy Piper is my favorite wrestler of all time. And I was just hooked by him. And when the LJNs first came out, I had got a few. My parents bought me because they knew I was into wrestling, so they got me like Hogan and the Junkyard Dog, and like most parents, they were getting the good guys.
Yeah.
And then finally, I was telling my parents, like, I really wanted Roddy Piper. And for Christmas, I you know, I got Piper from Santa Claus. It was in my stocking that year. And I was so stoked to get that Roddy Piper, man. I still remember they came with the little posters back then. And I had that poster on my wall for years, even going up into junior high. I absolutely loved the big rubber man, the old LJ. And I mean, they did nothing. You know, there's no playability to them, but it was just so cool.
Yeah, it made a crap load of money for Vince McMahon, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
The LJ and the first wrestling figures I remember was the thumb wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that was the first time. But LJN, you know, from that to Thundercats to everything else, you know, unfortunately that company's not around. But like they were trendsetters. They started off on some niches that a lot of other people wouldn't have done. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see when you see those original ones. And then I think also the Wrestling Superstars, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had an NBC cartoon. It might have been maybe CBS, but no,
Yeah, you had
NBC.
Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And
Yeah.
the voice of Hulk Hogan was I think his name's Brad Garrett, the brother from Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah, he was the voice of Hulk Hogan.
Hogan couldn't even do his own voice, huh?
Not back then, man. They were wrestling like 300 days a year. So.
Hey, I'm surprised they didn't just put a mic as they're going from one airport lounge to the next or something.
Yeah.
This man's dedication just wasn't there. So, flowing next on the list, we've got two now. Now you dated yourself back with one of these on the list. It's not. I'm not going to say it's the Millennium Falcon, but where you were telling me we were going through a search of that, and I was like people fail to realize that there were two failed Lone Ranger movies. It just wasn't the Johnny Depp one.
Yeah, the old Gilbert Lone Ranger action figures were this is something for I mean, God, I'd say a good 3 or 4 years. Every year we got the old I think it was Sears or JCPenney catalog, the Christmas catalog. I would circle these figures all the time. I absolutely loved Lone Ranger as a kid, the old black and white TV series. My dad was a big fan of Westerns, so you know, I absolutely loved the Lone Ranger. And then they came out with, you know, the Lone Ranger, Tonto. They had then they also had Butch Cassidy was in there, I believe. You know, they had like probably 4 or 5 other people, real actual Western heroes. But Lone Ranger and Tonto were it for me. The year I got those two figures, I was just so stoked. And I got the 10-inch ones first, which the little 10-inch dolls. And then they also had 3 3/4 versions of them, which I actually still own the 3 3/4 versions. There are just the nostalgia for those figures, and they were so well detailed, especially for something that came out back then, you know. And it's crazy how well made they were for back then, you know. And it does date me quite a bit, you know, but they were just so awesome. Like I would literally stare. Like I would go. My grandmother would always keep the Christmas catalogs.
Yeah.
So, and I would just go there and I would grab it out of her the little stand where she had it and just stare at these figures like for hours. And my all-time favorite Christmas present that I got, I still remember, like to the point where I welled up. I had tears in my eyes opening up the Millennium Falcon. This is my favorite Christmas present of all times. I still own my original Millennium Falcon.
Well, brother, damn near almost own everything still. Like, if there's anybody that actually is a hindsight, a cautionary tale, don't destroy your toys as a child. Richard actually has benefited from that.
Yeah, I still like this. This is in my closet in my house right now, still displayed well. I mean, it's all original. The only thing, like some of the stickers have fallen off because the glue is worn away, but I mean, that original Millennium Falcon, and there's been better versions that have come out, ones with electronics and everything like that. This had that stupid little gear that just wound up and made this horrible whining noise, but it was one of the most amazing things ever. And like I said, I was so happy opening that thing. I could have got nothing else probably for, years to come. And still, I would keep this with me everywhere I went. And there's one thing that didn't get on this list because I can't remember if I got it for Christmas or my birthday, but it was one of my favorite toys when I was a kid, and that was a actually Batmobile pedal car.
Oh, I had that as well.
I loved that thing so much that my parents actually have a picture. Like, well, my parents are gone, but they had a picture that it's still somewhere with all their pictures of me asleep in it because I wouldn't get out of it. I literally would sleep in that thing. But yeah, but this is my all-time favorite toy, my favorite Christmas present of all times.
All right, and we ran the list, and again, all the contenders on this list, you actually had to get these for Christmas. But there's always Christmas highs and there's Christmas lows. So if there's one thing that you didn't, because we asked everyone on the show, make sure there's one thing that you didn't get that you wish you did get. So we're gonna see the one item that Richard, as a child, every little Richard didn't get and everything. So here we go.
Yeah. The USS flag.
You were not alone. You were not alone.
Not only did I never get it for Christmas, I've never owned the USS flag.
Yep, same here.
I did have the opportunity at one point to get myself one. But it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel the same. It was something that one kid on my block had, and we all played with it, but yeah, that was my big miss. That was my big what if.
Yeah, I remember I hadn't seen that until I was an adult, actually, because nobody I knew ever got it, because again, there was a lot of parents out there like, no, because it was 7 feet. And usually the first argument was like, no,
where are you going to put it?
Where the heck we're going to put it? You're not getting that. So, but then I was at a convention, and it was the first time I had saw it, and I was an adult, and I was like, wow, it still holds it. It's like one of those things where you see it, and you're always in awe of it. Like this was, I don't know the thought process that went in from the people over at Hasbro, but like this was one of those level up kind of ideas that you don't think the corporation's going to do. And they're like, no, we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is.
The craziest part is how cheap it was when it came out.
I know. Once you see the like $99, it's like, come on,
$100.
Like, you've got to be kidding me. But it is, when I see these kids in the catalogs, joy in their faces and everything, it's like, I wonder what that felt like, because, I have no clue of it, man. But all right, well, that's Richard's previous crash that broke his heart, and you saw his 5 right there. Chet, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Okay,
let's do it.
All right, we got the Chet and his top 5 or 6, depending on what he crammed in his list. But all right, Chet, take it away, brother.
Well, so some of you may know that I have My Pet Monster on top of the arcade behind me. Yep. But this was one that I got for Christmas just randomly. I don't remember if I asked for it or my sister asked for it or what, but like I remember getting this and it was epic. And then recently reacquiring it, I did find one that still has the silver and the turquoise on the hands and the feet, but like to get that quality of My Pet Monster is like very, very expensive, which is totally fine. I think it's worth it. But in terms of like plush toys back in the day, this is like top. This is like top dog, like crazy plush, right? Yeah. And then I really liked Boglin's. I think I got the one that's in the middle, I think is what I got. But I really enjoyed these. These were awesome. I was also a huge fan of Mad Balls. So these kind of went hand in hand with them, but these were cool. If you just left them in the cage, they could just sit on the top. So I was really into them. They re-released them, but I'm not looking to get them anymore. They were fun to have at the time.
Yeah.
If I could find the original ones in the original boxes that weren't astronomical, maybe. But I would buy a better My Pet Monster first, probably.
Okay.
Next, our friends at the Sarlacc Digest will appreciate this one. The Star Wars Death Star playset. This was epic. I remember playing with this all the time. Tons of Star Wars. I think I had every figure that's in here. The cannon on the top. This is what I liked about this era is that they just let your child imagination go wild, and they just made playsets out of things that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they made it, and so you started playing with it, and you're like, oh, holy crap! And then it would end up outside. You'd figure out how to put it in like a bush or behind dirt or whatever to make it like built into it,
Mm-hmm.
And if you look down, and maybe we'll do a show one day about play sets and what they were back in the day, because if you go back and look at play sets, there's a lot of crazy play sets, man, and a lot of really good ones. But this was cool. I remember having this, and it was. I mean, there's literally nothing to this thing.
Well, the people over at Kenner, just like when they say the things that built people's dreams on, that's what Kenner did. Because Kenner just knocked things out of the box. First of all, to have an actual planet-destroying base, and they make that for kids to play with, that's just awesome right there. Because anyone that saw that first movie knew what the Death Star was, because it blew up an entire planet.
Yeah.
But also the 3 levels, and you're right. The term playset really did kind of sink in, and they haven't done that well for kids lately, and they need to get back to doing those kind of play sets.
Yeah.
It was one of the coolest actually play sets of. Actually, oddly enough, last year I sold my Death Star play set.
Yeah, no, I probably would have bought it.
I hope you got big bucks for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then the ever famous Thundercats lair.
Yeah.
Funny story. At the show that I was in Ohio, some dude had a Thundercats lair in cellophane in a graded like plexiglass box. He was asking $45,000 for it. So I'm sure he took that shit home.
Yeah.
No one was buying anything from his booth because he was just asking astronomical prices for no reason. Because like if you really wanted this, you could find the box for maybe 100 and then complete it for like maybe 7, if that. But Cat's Lair was awesome. This was gigantic. It's not as crazy as that Super 7 one, but this was still was better than the Super 7 one because at least it looked good. But I love this. This was just, I mean, you had a cat's head with lasers and Thundercats, and I think all of us at one point in time were glued to the TV for Thundercats.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
It was like Thundercats, then Silverhawks.
Yep.
It was crazy, man.
Do the trifecta with Tiger Sharks?
I don't remember if Silverhawks ever had a play set. I think maybe they did, but Thundercats for me. At the time it came out, I was a huge Transformer fan, but at the time, like Thundercats was rolling, like I didn't miss Thundercats, like at all. And the only reason why I got into Silverhawks was because I think it was on after Thundercats. So,
well,
I love this playset.
I love the actual artwork too, because again, we're going to go back and admire things like that. Is just the scene and everything else like that. I remember, and again, this is where the old heads here. When you went into Toys R Us, and Toys R Us was like walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You always had a golden ticket, but like you would go across the aisle, and these illustrations would pull you, and like you saw everything. That's the beautiful thing about the artwork for the packaging. You already saw the adventures that you were going to do already, just seeing the illustrations, and it was kind of like all right, hey, this is what we've done. What are you going to do? And I remember I wanted the Cat's Lair, but I think I got something that year that was in a different compete. But I just wanted to get it where it had the head to light up, and then you had the little handles on the back and everything. I was like, oh yeah, that's got to be cool.
Yeah, this seems awesome. It was so much fun. All right, so this is kind of like a plethora. I mean, there was some stuff on here that I didn't get, but this was kind of like stuff that my parents just knew that I liked, and I think that's what kind of like started my journey into video games. Like SNES, I have the control system in box above, like up here. The NES Advantage, I have that. That was an amazing joystick at the time. I mean, it's really kind of funny if you look at it now because there's
Oh yeah.
like it like come on, they just made the bigger controller. But you know, it was everything here. I remember my dad specifically had this like Nintendo game holder, right? And I've been trying to find one of those. So if you guys ever see one, I actually want one of those for my NES games again. But that was cool. And then on this page, I will say on the right side where all the radio control stuff is, this was something big that I did with my dad like every year. In fact, we still did it up until he passed away. I have the ones that he had, but on here there's literally I think only one that I didn't get, which I always wanted, because even when I was younger, I was like, I could put this on a different toy, but it was the Typhoon hovercraft.
Yeah, yeah.
That thing was so awesome. I remember the commercials, like the kids were in the pool and then they'd shoot it off and then into the water and then outside the pool. I never got it. My dad actually took me at one point in time. I guess I did good in school or something, and we went to for those of you who live in California, we went to the giant Toys R Us that was on Orange Thorpe and Lemon. And I remember walking in there. We went into the like remote radio control section, because if you never got to experience a Toys R Us when you were a kid, I'm sorry, your childhood sucks. Because an original Toys R Us, no matter what it was the place had to be big enough so that each toy genre could have its own section.
Yeah.
And when you would go to Toys R Us to the RC section, it was eye candy, man. They had all the remote control cars, they had all the boats, all the hovercrafts, some stuff that people didn't even know about. In the top, this is one that my dad actually got, and that got us into like slot car racing. So this was awesome. I just had to put this out there as just like nostalgia, like all this stuff here. I probably got at some point in time. I'm super thankful for my parents for being able to do that. But yeah, the RC stuff was I that's where I built my addiction when I was younger, with my dad with RC. So I've kind of stopped right now. The RC car I have goes like 75 miles an hour, so I don't need another one right now. And that was because my dad's like, we should get these. These are fast. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So we got those, and then I was thinking like if I ever got the Typhoon, my goal was going to be put it on the Killer Whale.
Okay.
So, because I don't know if you guys ever remember that thing, but that was a great toy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember it. I remember.
And could you imagine that thing on the Killer Whale?
Yeah, there was so many RC cars of that era and day that they really now I see that the RC cars is a major comeback, and there's so many gears and so many people and so many hobby shops with it. So it's nice that it had a resurgence, because I remember as a kid, everyone, it was like whether it was your birthday or Christmas or whatever, and these were, from having just basically doom buggies to having like pickup trucks. I remember when the early monster trucks started getting big, RC cars. I love them. Choppers, boats, whatever you could get away with.
And Tyco was the brand, dude.
Yes, they were.
There was no reason to have another brand. And here's the thing I'm trying to figure out, if it's because when I was younger and I didn't have a concept of like time. I feel like the RC cars from back in the day, honestly, the batteries lasted a lot longer than the new ones do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember I could swear that I would take an RC car, a Tyco car, with my dad somewhere, and we would just play at the baseball diamond for like freaking hours.
Yeah.
Now, the cars that my dad and I got, shit's like 10 minutes, and then you just got to charge it again. So, but yeah, so that's that. And then finally, because I never got it, and I'm a massive TMNT fan, I've never owned in my entire life, even in my, I guess you'd call me an adult life. I've never owned the Technodrome. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is, man, because there's a lot of nostalgia stuff that you see. Tara Jones sticks out as you're like, wow, that's one of those play sets in the day that was like such an ingenious kind of concept.
Mhm.
And the modular, the tiers, again, these things, these play sets. The term is right in the title, and for hours you could do it, and nothing was hotter in the time period than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were everywhere. Like, I don't care what they did, what they put out, what ridiculous, uniform, clothing, sporting, whatever they were doing, they could
Everything
do no
sold.
wrong. They could
Yeah.
do no wrong, man.
Well, the Technodrome was so good because, like, even as a toy, like when it closed up and collapsed, and you
Yeah.
just had it sitting, it just looked cool. You had a giant eyeball.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looked cool. So,
It was
yeah,
a
I mean,
massive playset too. That thing was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I never owned one of those either.
I missed it. I missed it. It's one of my all-time favorites. I don't know if I'll technically ever buy it, but
Well, they did reissue that last year. So,
Yeah.
and I think it was by Playmates as well. They
Yeah,
did
it's
reissue
Playmates.
Yeah,
it.
they reissued it the exact same mold and everything.
Yeah, well, I have the
Very
original.
smart.
This is actually the reissue Turtle Wagon too. I never had that, so I got that, and that's the Playmates Nickelodeon one. I've never opened it, but I love that wagon. But one honorable mention, and I will thank Mr. Richard here from kscollectibles.com. If you don't go there, that's your problem. You're missing out. But there was one that the reason why it didn't make it on the list is because Richard actually helped me achieve it. And that is, I never got Boulder Hill as a kid, and I always wanted it. I was a massive Mask fan. I go back and watch the shows. I have no idea why the hell I was a massive Mask fan, but I love the show. I love the toys. And then here we go. And that is all thanks to Richard. So Richard, I want to say that you made a like 7-year-old Chet Maddox extremely happy when I got and to be fair, it's very clean. Like it's a very clean one. Obviously, the gas hoses are not original, but like, I mean, if you find one with original gas hoses, like, good luck. So, but yeah, I mean, so that's the only reason why I didn't make it on the list. I just wanted to bring it up. I know we didn't have an honorable mention thing, but at the same time, like, Boulder Hill would have been on the list, but
Well, to our viewers out there, just remember, dreams do come true.
yes,
They do come true. It might take you about 40 years, but they do come true.
This Make-A-Wish kid got it.
That's exactly why I sell toys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because he knew I would show up one day asking for Boulder Hill.
He did. The man's a genius.
Mr. Storm.
He knows what we want before we even know we want it.
Mr. Storm, it is time for you to rain down on us.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something too. It actually, since it is Christmas Day, and I hope everyone out there is enjoying their Christmas Day, make sure that you do a present for us. Like, comment, and most definitely subscribe. That little button down there. Chet Maddox made that free today for Christmas Day. He's not going to charge you for any subs today. So
yeah. So
but
if you
to
do
get
it,
in,
now that's generosity right there.
Thank you. Hey, it's out of my own bank account.
That's all the days. We're giving back.
How are you going to be able to pay for that yacht?
Don't worry about that.
So, clicking it back into the list and everything else like that. Now, again, rules is we had to own these, and I can tell you, I got this present, and like every other child in the late 70s. That movie came out. I saw Star Wars, and that was in the days of drive-ins. And like every week, my mom would take us to a drive-in, and my younger brother, he was 2 years younger than me, and it was no matter. So whatever I said, he was like, yeah, that's fine. But there was a point where I think I saw this movie like 25 weeks in a row. My mother could recite lines from this because it was consecutively every time. It was like Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. I love this movie. She was like, "What do you want for Christmas and everything?" I want that X-wing, and that X-wing came, and the only thing I was disappointed on, and these are nitpicks because of the fact that I'm a child. They had a weird sense of like something's not right about this. R2 couldn't come out. And I was like, well, wait a minute. And I said, why can't R2 get out of this thing? Well, she said, because he was the little button that popped out.
He was the button that popped the wings. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the one thing. It just drove me crazy. I was like, well, he gets out of it in the movie. Like, so that's the difference. So Kenner, that was the one thing where you could have thought of something. You could have had R2 pop out. But when I saw that,
they did later years.
They did, yes, yes. That was be when I was
Actually.
out of the line. But I love this this
You
toy. It was fantastic. It was one of those things where, if you didn't grow up at the tail end of the late 70s, oh damn straight you missed out.
you know
Because
this is the one toy that I hear you talk about all the time, to be fair.
yeah, it is it's a fantastic toy. It looked like something from the film. Those were always like, because sometimes they would put out certain vehicles and certain things and they didn't look like they were really from the film.
Yeah.
And like this was one of the few ones where I'm like, no, 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 this was right. I got Luke Skywalker. I remember they had like Chewbacca and Han, and like I said, it was like parents were able to make $1 really stretch in those days compared to like today, where you're paying almost like $50 a figure or crazy things. Like you were able to pick up 4 or 5 figures and a vehicle, and that would be one hell of a Christmas draw. So I remember this every time I see it, it just brings simple box. They've got the actual product on it. You knew what it is. No way the parents actually could have made a mistake on this one. They knew it said X-Wing. They knew where to get it from. So from there, roll up. I had to put the mask up because I remember one Christmas, and I told Mom, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I want because I come from a transportation family, so there's a lot of truck drivers and a lot of people that are in logistics that come from my family. So I've had like uncles and like other family members, cousins, everything. They all drove trucks, so it was always in the truck. So I knew when I saw Rhino, I was like, "Oh yeah." And I remember I would look at like my uncle's truck and wonder, like, does his stacks go down and has a laser in it? It's like, those certain aspects. But I loved Rhino. I got Rhino and Thunderhawk. And I remember my brother got Vampire and Outlaw. And those were some of the best. I never had Boulder Hill. Had a couple other ones in the line before that line ended very remotely too soon. But I remember like the missile, the actual battering ram. It was just like even the figures, like they were highly detailed, even though they were smaller than 3 3/4
Yeah.
figures. But they were highly detailed, and I loved all the masks. I love
Their little
oh,
masks were awesome too.
yeah, I love that first season of the Deke Show. The second season, if you did get to see it, it's not as good as the first one, but
Yeah.
these were all the aspects through that whole entire first season. Most of those vehicles that you saw that actually were in the catalogs all made their way onto the show. So, I gave them credit. This was just like, Kenner, like when they thought like well, Star Wars is over with, what do we got next, and unfortunately Mass did not become that actual next hit for them. But the best part about it is if you make something good, then it will come back. If you've ever seen any of the ramen toys work out there, definitely one. And everything then we've heard about another company that we will not mention on this show that's supposed to make it. We'll have it's the actual idea is out there right now. We've got to see if they execute it. I don't know. I've seen some of their figures. I'm a little worried about it, but let's hope that they're able to do this justice line. I would love to see Hasbro actually classify scale, take it to 6-inch, and just do all these vehicles. I would love to see like a Rhino, a 6-inch version of Rhino. So let's hope down the line they could do that. But this
Even
was
even at 3 3/4, I think it would be awesome.
oh
And
yeah, yeah.
that's still an upscale, and you'd get more detailed vehicle. Like Mask was one of the coolest lines ever,
It
and
was.
it was rightly like horribly underappreciated. But it over the last couple of years, it had a huge resurgence. I would
Yeah.
constantly get people in my store asking if I had Mask, and they were like, Mask was up there, and for some reason, Madballs.
Well, the thing I always loved about it was the detail. Everything from the stickers to the actual chrome to like, just the hubcaps to the real rubber tires. This was just a premium line that they put a lot of work into. And, again, I'm curious to see what Low Subjects is going to do about it. We'll see hopefully soon. From that, if you were a child of the 70s and 80s, and again, like Mr. Maddox said, Tycho. Just it's like just set this in for about a moment. Like I said, Tycho was like mastering stuff at home. When it came to the little slot cars or race tracks or even to like, remote control cars, Tyco was doing it. And I remember I saw this and it was red alert and it had a little fire truck and it went on the tracks. It had a firehouse connected to it. And again, I come from a transportation family. All of my family members were into transportation. So I love the dump truck. I love the actual gravel hauler, the cab over trucks. And I remember the first thing I did was I put this track together and I turned off all the lights and everything because I wanted to see that damn fire truck with the bell. And it had a loud ass bell. Like there was a loud bell that was in there and those
Yeah,
strobe
they're
lights.
so loud.
And I remember playing for this thing endless hours. And you can actually, the best part about it is while it was like, a set track that they gave you, there was extension pieces. So you can make the Red Alert City, like they had a Red Alert, they had a big rig version, so they were all you were able to hook that up. And I remember my brother and I, we used to just love slot cars. I haven't seen a Red Alert in person in I say probably 40 years, to be honest with you. But this was again the playability. I love to see this stuff start coming back. Hopefully, but just fantastic. Tycho, wherever you guys are in the toy heaven, you guys are on my list all the time. I loved Red Alert, man. Just fantastic. And I also like the Highway 1 US 1. Since we lived in California, yeah. Pacific Coast Highway was just one of those things, wonder did they take that little point from that? Then from there, well, we got a couple of ones that made the list and everything. If you were again a late child of the 70s, and everything, then you remember that Tonka was the only damn thing that you needed. Tonka you didn't have figures connected to it. It didn't you couldn't open up doors or anything else like that. It was just out in the backyard. If you had some dirt, you had an excavator, you had a dump truck. Well, I had the dump truck. And you could have all of the tractors and everything else out there, but this was function Tonka, and it was industrial paint. Yes, that lead-based paint damn straight was on these trucks. These things were made out of metal. They weren't plastic like you see them now. They were 100% hard metal. And a quick story about this: my grandfather actually would scold us to make sure that we put these toys up because again, how kids are, they put at the end of steps and everything else that. Well, my grandfather had a pride and joy, and if there's certain neighborhoods and everything will know what this is, but he had a Cadillac, and it was a big thing to have a Cadillac. I don't care what hella high water, that thing was shined up, and it was the highlight of his life and everything. Well, one night he was getting a little older and everything this and that, and my brother and I had left the Tonka dump truck in the driveway, and he drove up one night, and he screamed on all high heaven because while the Tonka dump truck was fine, he had a massive dent in the front of his car. Due to that. But the Tonka truck was fine. Matter of fact, it went on that I had that up until we moved, and I had it in my 20s. I think I donated it somewhere. It was still in condition, and that paint was still kicking. All you had to do is take a little wax and wax it up, and it was as good as new. But I remember that was an actual. You will not see these products built again. Tonka put quality into that, and then from the other side. Well, Richard knows about this. I don't know if Mr. Maddox knows about it. Steve Austin. We can rebuild him. I was a massive $6 million man. And at the time when we were coming up, $6 million was a lot of stinking money. And they spent that. It's like they put $6 million in the dude. That's a lot of money and everything. And I remember you would run with slow motion because you wanted to emulate that. And even though now it looks stupid as hell because no way, shape, or form are you actually running that fast, but it just looked good on film. But I remember I begged my mother for this $6 million man, and it had real metal in the arm. You could peel it off, and you could see his metal bionics underneath, or you could look at the back of his head, and he had a scope because he had a bionic eye, and he had that Adidas jumpsuit on. I 100% loved that toy. It was my all-time favorite doll.
And after the $6 million mad, they made the Bionic Woman.
Yep. I remember that. I remember I didn't want any of the characters. I know they had Bigfoot that was extremely popular. They also had the his counterpart, I guess, the android, and then they also had the Bionic Woman. They had the Oscar, his handler, and I didn't give a damn about any of that. I just wanted Steve Austin. That's all I cared about.
Now the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot,
Hmm.
is the most popular character
Yes. Mhm.
in the toy line because people finally found out he was played by Andre the Giant.
Yep. Yep.
They actually did a re-release of the $6 Million Man figures.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. If you were anywhere from Southern California, which we all have, and you went to a little place called Universal Studios,
Yeah,
and you took that magic tram ride, and you went to an ice cave,
the
and
Spinning Cave.
you got to see the Bigfoot there and everything. And I
Yeah.
remember I used to every year we went, I was like, "Yep," I had to go there. And then we also drive onto the Battlestar Galactica thing, and it was like, "Yeah, like how the hell did this spaceship get on the lot back here?" But anyways, I
Do you remember
digress.
they used to do the makeup show where the guy would turn into the Incredible Hulk too.
Yeah. Universal Studios, shout out to them. But yeah, Steve Austin, $6 Million Man. Loved that toy. Loved it. It was, and even though they say it was a doll, I don't give a damn. It was great.
Action figure.
It was great. Then yeah, I put an honorable mention here because there is an honorable mention, but I did have this, and my brother and I, we were in, and again, this goes down, Mr. Maddox. Tycho. We were talking about Tycho, like I said.
Telling you,
The
man,
G.I. Joe
Tycho
train.
was owning everything, man.
Man, they just Tycho put quality out there. And I remember this was quality because not only did it come with the train, it actually came with a battlefield, it came with paratroopers, it came with tanks, it came with all kind of stuff. You could put it on the train, and yes, it did ride in a circle, but damn it, your mind went way further than that round track in the middle of your bedroom. It went like to all different places. And then unfortunately, a toy owner of a store that will not be mentioned on the show had to have my favorite dreams brought up, where there's a 6-inch version that I will be vying for real soon because damn it, I just have to have. I'm just that stupid. I need something like this. But this was just fantastic. Great, Tycho's like Tycho was more like Funko. They had a bunch of licensing, and
Yeah, they
they
did
delivered.
everything, man. They
Yeah,
did one of my favorite toys when I was younger was the Tycho Dukes of Hazzard.
Yep, I've had that. Where you used to jump, and then I also
Mhm.
had a Tycho Knight Rider, and I
Yeah,
used to like the Larson beam in front of the car. So yeah, whatever Tycho put out, and I also had the Tycho A-Team, where you had the cops chasing
yeah.
the van. I used to love those things. Tycho was like, they just put quality together, but they took care of everyone's brand. And I think it was like a rite of passage if you got yourself a Tycho track and you were a TV show. You knew you were staying. But fantastic. I even think wasn't even Smokey and Bandit? Didn't they do Smokey
Yeah.
and the Bandit Tycho track too? Yes, we're dating ourselves really bad here, but and from there, there's highs and lows, and this is Richard and I and every other human being that's probably ever listening to this show right now have shared the lows and everything. It's that when I used the term beg, pleaded, as it negotiated every situation that I could for my
It can
mother
be
to
my Christmas
buy.
and birthday present.
Yeah, I was like, look, you don't for the next 10 years, don't buy me anything. Just the USS flag. It's like I'm gonna literally I will die Christmas morning and it doesn't show
Mhm.
up and everything. She was good with that. She was like, well, you're just gonna have to, I'm just gonna have to revive you back to life because you're not gonna get it. Once she saw the size,
Mhm.
and it was like she thought about it. She was like, because as a kid, it's like, Mom, it's like this, I need this. This is not like something that is just like a wish. This is a need. If you're for any GI Joe fan, you need to have the USS flag. How can you say you're a fan of the show and you don't have this massive item and everything? And then she found out it was 7 feet, and she thought, you are out of your mind. Where the
Mhm.
hell are you putting this thing?
That's what it was, and that's why I never got it. Is
Yep.
purely the side. Like, where's it going to go?
Yeah, she was like, no. I told her to just take my bed out. I'll sleep on it. Just like, just but I just did not work and everything. So again, this was the crushing blow to her Christmas and everything. Now, I obviously, since I've gotten some years older, I survived not having it. But it is something that is like I'll use the line at the end of the road where it only exists in the back of my mind.
You had to be the world's greatest kid if you had the flag and the Defiant.
No.
Oh.
And when you look at those boxes, I know people are now just getting their Ghost from Star Wars, and that box is crazy. But I saw a vintage picture of the actual flag box and the Defiant box, and I was like, my God, the size of it alone, and just the weight of these things is just amazing. And I know Super 7 put out the Cat's Lair, and that's extremely large. Eternia popped up, but nothing really cuts it towards the Defiant and towards the USS Flag. And actually, I don't think I ever wanted the Defiant. I just wanted the aircraft carrier. That's all I cared about.
The closest to the flag right now is so the HasLab Jabba's sail barge is pretty close to the size of the flag, which I have sitting in its shipper box in my living room because it's too big.
Wow. Yeah, this is one thing. And then also, Mr. Maddox and I found out that there's an actual 3D print file for a 6-inch version of this.
How long is that thing got to be?
I think 17.
It's 14. I think it's
feet?
it's almost 15 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. See, but you might find two crazy fools that might.
And the guy's only selling 50 downloads of the files.
Yeah.
How much is he selling it for?
$199.
That's really cheap.
Yeah, and I've had it in my cart for some time now.
We're debating on this one, I can tell you that. But again, so
Richard's like, oh, we ain't debating now. It's 3 ways, guys.
Yeah, like a USC football team, something bad's gonna happen.
That is huge, man. But
I'll go put it in my
that would be impressive to see.
Well, with that and everything, I hope today everyone's opening up gifts. I hope there's no disappointment there. Hope you're enjoying the time with your families and everything else like that. And remember, it's about the gifts. I was gonna just
this right here is a bone crushing ultimate or Undertaker. And the reason he is here, when my son was little, this was his dream gift. He is 29 right now, and this is still his original bone crushing Undertaker. Again, he was never really into toys. This is the one toy he really wanted.
There you go. And if you look on the bottom where you see kscollectibles.com, Richard can make your dreams come true if you just hit him up.
You'd be amazed the kind of stuff I can find.
Well,
true story.
With that one said, gentlemen, like I said again, we're looking at the time and everything's rolling down and everything. And if I haven't said it to the 3 of you guys and everything, or the 2 of you guys actually, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to your families. Everyone out there.
Everyone.
Hope that you guys are having a great day and enjoying some time and actually enjoying us. And we will be back live next week. But, obviously we're opening up gifts, and some of us, hopefully at this exact moment that's going on, hopefully we're not all getting disappointed.
I buy my own Christmas gifts now. This year I got a smoked ham.
Alrighty, fellas. Merry Christmas.
All right, guys.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas, everyone.
And we'll see you on the flip side.